Welcome to Double Overtime, presented by VC Ultimate. Week 2 of our VC Ultimate sponsorship. Thank you again to those folks for sponsoring the show. We're excited to, it's part of a big show. Sasha, big show. I'm Jen Weiner, he's Sasha Vogel. We got a big show. I got so distracted by the fact that we have a big show. We're talking to Adriana Withers of title sponsor VC Ultimate. Later in the show, we're talking PUL player sponsorship program. We're talking PUL roster drops. We're talking Western Ultimate League season starting days from now. We're going. Sasha, how are you?
I'm doing okay. Nothing super new to report. I mean, I got my first tattoo a couple
Very
days
exciting.
ago, so that's cool. Just really quick shout out to my dudes on USC Gamecock Ultimate. They won Eastern qualifiers, so they're going to Easterns.
Going to the show.
Excited for them. It's been really fun being able to coach them when I can get up and do that. But yeah. Nothing new other than that.
Yeah, as we're going to be talking PUL, WUL stuff, as mentioned, as you would expect from us on Double Overtime. But yes, the college season is very much underway. I will be spending my weekend while the Western Ultimate League starts its season in Arizona for the Sidewinder show. I will be out in lovely Stevenson, California for the women's Stanford Invite after some continued wet weather out here in California made the men's Stanford Invite kind of a mess in actual Stanford, California, in Palo Alto. So I get to trek out to the Central Valley. Stanford Invites, I would say second home, but it's become basically first home. So I'll be keeping tabs on the Sidewinder Showdown from the Central Valley. Keep an eye on Ulti World live Twitter account. I'll be live tweeting the tournament, Stanford Invite this weekend. Sasha, we got news to cover. Oh my gosh, y'all, we have a show. We have an interview. We have a show. It's gonna be great. Sasha, where should we start? PUL? Should we talk player sponsorship program? It's about to wrap up somehow already.
Like a cat.
Don't do that too loud, Joel. Get my cat back here.
Yeah, or my 3 that are hanging around the house. But yeah, let's player sponsorship program. Today is the 7th, and I believe it goes until the 9th?
Noon on the 9th. From what I know. Ideally, I think they're aiming to have everything wrapped up by tomorrow as we're recording this. Maybe the day of, or yesterday by the time you hear this. But International Women's Day is tomorrow, March 8th. Ideally, I think the league, VC Ultimate, want the player sponsorship program to sell out on International Women's Day. Would be nice and poetic, but they have a little bit more time on the 9th just to make sure they get everything tidied up by then.
Yeah, and they're going pretty well. I can't remember the exact numbers, but they're getting pretty close to selling everybody out. Shout out to the Philadelphia community, coming out strong for their team. They were the very first team to sell out completely of all of their sponsorship jerseys. That's pretty cool to see. You can tell Philly's really excited to have a team, women's team there.
Yeah, makes sense. New team, lots of community excitement. And it was something, Sasha, you and I talked about a bit in, I think it was our sub bonus segment when we were talking about the Western Ultimate League's Be a Mega Fan fundraiser of having the 2 sponsorship programs back to back. What would the success look like for the PUL coming on the heels of the WUL's similar player sponsorship program? And the answer is both can be very successful. And I think what we're seeing, especially as indicated by the Surge, from Philadelphia, to sell out their team's jerseys, that is a lot of local community support that really helps support these teams and these players. And so you can absolutely have 2 major fundraisers for these 2 different leagues because they're localized. and so you're able to sell a bunch of these jerseys, over 1,000 for the Western Ultimate League. The PUL looking to sell out 1,440 jerseys total.
Yeah, I think someone mentioned it in the Ultra World Discord. There was a question about that. They're like, so with these being, so close together, like how do you think this will do? And someone, I can't remember exactly who said it. Someone was like, well, they're completely different geographical areas. So yeah, like you said, the local and fan support is really great for them. As well as, players on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, putting it out there saying, hey, help me out, sponsor me. And so, their family and friends are also getting in on it.
Yeah. And with the launch of the player sponsorship program came the effective announcement of full rosters for all of the PUL teams. And while we knew about some of the moves at a time, because some teams had made announcements about their player additions beforehand, we got a full look at all of the rosters. There will be some point down the line in the coming weeks, an article on Ultiworld on the site about breaking down certainly the number of returners, number of new players, some of the club teams that each of the different PUL teams are pulling from up on the site, similar to what I wrote up for the Western Ultimate League. So keep an eye out for that. Basasha, what is your first reaction? What was your first take? Biggest move for you that we saw for the PUL teams?
Biggest move for me personally was Robin Fennig to Minnesota, as well as Sarah Mextroth. Like, that was, when I saw that, I was, wow, that's insane. And then after that, it's gotta be Elizabeth Mosquera and Yina Cartagena in New York. Like,
yeah,
that
huge.
blew me away.
We also saw with DC Shadow, Claire Trope is back, as is Carolyn Normile. So that makes for DC and New York both teams with 2 World Games players. DC with Trope and Normile, New York with Mosquera and Cartagena. The East Division continuing to look just absolutely stacked. I think the biggest moves for me, I agree, have to be Robin and Bex to Minnesota, in part because both of those players are leaving other teams in the PUL. Bex being from Raleigh and Robin leaving from Milwaukee, strengthening Minnesota at the cost of those other teams. But yeah, the East is going to be such a bloodbath. I don't think, and we've said this and we've known this, I don't think it's hyperbole that literally 4 of the best 5 teams, if not 4 of the 4 best teams in the league, could be in the East Division. And the way that it sets up in the PUL, only 2 of those are making the championship weekend. And odds are going to be pretty good, I think, that your best second place team is going to be in the East Division, because, oh my goodness, on paper, these rosters are stacked.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit last time, that like this East Division is going to be a lot of fun to watch the entire season. And I definitely agree that, the top second place team will more than likely come from this division. And I mean, I feel like if we were going off, I guess if there wasn't divisions and going off of algorithms, you could potentially have 3 of the East teams being, at championship weekend, if that were the, if that were the scenario. It's earlier today I was going through all the rosters from last year and this year and comparing the 2, and I mean, obviously Philly is all brand new, but the other 3 teams are returning at least half of their roster from the previous season from this East Division. So they're returning a lot of their people, and then they're also just getting stronger by adding a lot of these other great players from like Mosquera and Cartagena, Margaret Walker from Milwaukee is now in DC. Like they're getting stronger, and so it's going to be a lot of fun to keep up with this division specifically.
Yeah, and also just shout out in the East Division, as far as I know, there are 4 trans femme folks who are playing on various East Division teams. There may be other folks that I don't know of who are playing on other teams or in the league in one way or another, but I just want to shout out the continued especially trans femme representation. Trans women going out and kicking butt on the various teams, especially in the East Division. I think, again, to your point, we're pretty much guaranteed to see at least one of them, if not a few of them, come championship weekend, given how strong those different teams are. On paper, Sasha, who do you think has the strongest roster? Mentioned the World Games players for DC and New York, New Philly roster, Raleigh with all that connectivity, or Strike with Mex and Robin. What's your take?
Personally, I think New York on paper has the strongest roster. First off, which
is wild.
Yeah.
Because they didn't make championship weekend last year. In fact, in the East Division, I think they ended up finishing last.
Yeah,
I think that's right.
They didn't do super, super well last year, but on paper they look incredible. They have 9 Exist players, and Exist they went to the semis,
mixed semis, yeah,
for club this year. So they have 9 of those people. They have 8 Bent players. They have 7 Brute Squad players, and then 2 Revo players. And then there's 2 other people.
It's monstrous.
Then there's 2 other people on the team that weren't in one of those 4 teams, and that's the entire team. Like, the entire team is basically Exist, Bent, and Brute.
Yeah.
Plus a couple of World Games Revo players. Like,
it is
on paper
stacked.
They're there.
Yeah. It's stacked. And right, that says something. If a team that finished bottom of their division, albeit a very strong East Division again last year, has the best roster on paper. And no shade to the other divisions, but it just feels like you can almost pencil in. You can't. You could maybe pencil in, and we'll get there eventually. We'll get back half of the show. We're talking everything WUL, including our championship weekend picks from the Western Ultimate League. We'll get to our PUL championship weekend picks when we get closer to that season actually starting. It just feels like maybe you pencil in Strike, maybe you pencil in Radiance, and maybe you pencil in Good Luck from the East Division for those other 2 spots. It's going to be exciting and just fun to see all different names, and great too for the league to be so close to selling out. Again, I think really showing the level of community support that the PUL continues to show. I think a open question still about how sustainable the community support is for both the Western Ultimate League and the Premier Ultimate League going forward. But as of this year, both leagues very successful in their fundraiser programs.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. I feel like it's fairly clear who are possibly the top teams in the other divisions, but with this division, it's a toss up.
Yeah, and I don't know that we got, as we're saying, got any more clarity with the rosters being released. So we'll talk more PUL down the line as we get closer to the season. But we got Western Ultimate League things coming up. I get a chance to talk to as mentioned before, Adriana of VC Ultimate, talking about the player sponsorship program, some behind the scenes, what goes on for VC to make the player sponsorship program happen. Sasha, any other thoughts on the PUL rosters, the player sponsorship program, before we take a quick break?
Not right now. I think we kind of covered everything, and we can talk a little bit more when the season gets closer. We can go more in depth with the rosters and how they've changed and stuff.
Yeah. We're going to continue to have pretty lengthy shows, y'all, for a while. Get excited because both leagues are going to get into full swing, certainly by the beginning of April. So we're going to have our hands full. So get excited. We're going to have a lot of content for you on the pod. Basically from here on out till what? June, Sasha? Beginning of June is when the WUL championship weekend is. Mid-June is when the PUL championship weekend is. It's going to be a ride, y'all. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I will be talking with Adriana. And then the back half of the show, we're previewing week 1 Sidewinder Showdown in Arizona. Rematches of last year's final and third place game. It's going to be a fun one. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. I am very excited to be joined now by VC Ultimate CEO Adriana Withers. Adriana, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jenna.
Thank you for sponsoring us also. Fun to have our title sponsor joining the show on our second week of being sponsored by y'all. And you and I known each other for a while. When we talk, we can tend to talk for hours on end. Unfortunately, we don't have hours on end, but we do have some very exciting news to talk about that you've probably has taken, I would guess, most of your time in the past weeks to months. The Premier Ultimate League's player sponsorship program, sponsor a player program, something along the lines of sponsoring all the incredible players in the Premier Ultimate League. 1,440 jerseys, if I have that number correct. What has it been like for you, and what is it like on the VC end to try and make such a big lift happen to get the jerseys in production, to figure out, coordinate with all the different teams and the league? Can you give some insight into what this looks like on the back end of things?
Absolutely. So the biggest challenge and opportunity, I think, with this program is the design of the jerseys. When we first did it, I think the first 2 years, we let each team come up with a totally unique concept. And that was a little bit along the line of herding cats, trying to get that all done while we were getting their uniforms done as well before the start of the season. So last year, we decided to streamline the process and came up with a concept that we tweaked for each team using different elements and colors and background images. And this year we did the same. So it kind of felt like it was a bit of a well-oiled machine for the first time and for the first stage of the process. So to back it up, what happens is about 6 months ago, we start talking about what the program's going to look like, review our notes from last year, what went well, where did we have some wrenches in productivity from our end, or communication from the leagues, or feedback from the community. When you think about it, like, you get all of a sudden 1,400 plus sponsors who, some of them have never even heard of an ultimate jersey. They're like, what makes it an ultimate jersey? And you have to go and figure out how to make that whole crew of supporters happy with what you're producing. So we go through a lot. Last year, we came up with the sliding scale, thanks to our friends at Both And Consulting and their inspiration. That was a whole other whack of technology to figure out. I think that's like the big thing, is planning out the technology and planning out the design. And that stuff happens a couple months ago. And then implementing that all across 12 teams. This year, we were smart enough to have like an information submission spreadsheet, which then somehow magically got sucked up into our online store, and all the information was there instead of 1,400 cut and pastes, which was last year.
Much nicer.
And we got to add, oh my gosh, our online store manager, Thomas, is a saint. So we then, we figured out what we wanted to do. We were inspired by the WUL's inclusion of a little bit more information on their players. So we were like, let's add a fun fact. And what and then had the idea of what's their position on the field, or what other club team do they play on, not just what their hometown or current location is, just to try and give the community a little bit more information about these professional athletes. So that's getting all that together. Yeah, it's a lot. I'm not going to lie. But it is the most exciting and important thing we do every year. This is our 5th year doing it, and it's kind of like a season for us. The VC team's made up of many different religions, so it's not like anyone celebrates any one thing around our office. But PSP season is like a big one. PCP, can you imagine? PSP season is a big one for us. So now that we're almost done, and I think we're going to have a sellout shortly, so that's awesome. Then we just start going into production, which is intense. But we've planned it out. We know exactly how much capacity we can give to these sponsor jerseys for the next 4 weeks, as opposed to trying to do it all at once and making all of our other great customer orders late. So we figured it. Long story short is that it takes over everything, and it's awesome. And we have it figured out now so that it's all pretty positive.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And you were saying years in partnering with the league. What does it mean for VC to be so involved in the process for building up and promoting women and non-binary ultimate, in particular with the PUL, but obviously y'all have had, if folks don't know, a lot of different initiatives. The future is female, the future is non-binary, pronoun jerseys, just trying to really promote inclusion and activism in a way through your merchandise. So what is it meant to partner with the PUL, again, on its way to another sellout, sort of a demonstration of community support for this league and its mission?
Yeah, I think it's the manifestation of our values. It's so important to me and to our team to do the work behind what we say publicly, and for our community to have the chance to see that happen and actualize. So one of the coolest things the last few years is that the PUL's uniforms and sponsor jerseys were our first gender-free fit. And this week launched, we're 100% gender-free now. I'm sure you could go on our website and find some gendered language, because our website's a beast and we're working diligently to get through it. But we've now completely finished our transition away from gendered sizing to fit and size and body shape based fits. And that's huge for us, because I want everybody who orders a PUL jersey or a VC jersey for their team or from our store, I want them to feel just as seen and welcome as any other person on earth. And I think that the partnership with the PUL really helps us communicate that with some weight. Like, when do you launch an ultimate anyway? When do you launch a new style and have the opportunity to communicate that to 1,440 new people? And people who aren't ultimate people, so they might not be thinking about wait a sec, what do you mean? Why would you want your jersey to be gender free? Like, why does that matter? Oh, well, how about you read one of my long-winded blogs? Which, Jenna, you've helped me write in the past to talk about like why this stuff matters and what kind of example this can set for kids and for athletes outside of our sphere. So I think the PUL is amazing. It is like, the fact that it's a nonprofit with such strong values does not mean it's the easy road for them as organizers. And I really stand by that. I think the easy road's not the one that's going to change the landscape of sport. So I think it all fits pretty well. I'm really proud of our partnership.
Yeah. And obviously the near sellout, as we're talking now, the sellout of last season follows along with the Western Ultimate League they also did a jersey sponsorship fundraiser thing last year, but this year it was much more in the model of the PUL, individual players each having a number of jerseys available for sponsorship. It was very successful, over 1,000 jerseys. PUL, again, 1,440 jerseys on its way to selling out. can you talk a little bit about what you see from the community support side? And something that I know Sasha and I have talked about a little bit, but what's sustainable for the sport, for these leagues? Is it sustainable to run these jersey fundraisers every year? Hopefully. And that means that you're relying a lot on the ultimate community or community around each of the individual teams for support. Thoughts on what that might look like now and going forward, especially as we come out of the pandemic, have both leagues up and running similar sponsorship programs. Is it sustainable?
It's a great question. The WUL fundraiser was great this year. I was thrilled to see them do so well. I think there was a little bit of discussion internally about, is this going to mean that we're going to have a hard time fundraising? And then we had this whole idea of, well, we should look at where the postal codes in Canada, the zip codes of where the sponsors are coming from each team to figure out, like, are these mostly community-based people, or, is the WUL and the PUL fundraising from the same areas or groups of people, or is this really truly a national-wide fundraiser just split into two things? And I think that's what this year has taught me. Before the PSP every year, I'm a nervous wreck. We put so much work into it, so much rides on it financially for the league, that of course I'm like, it's not going to work. What's going to happen? But within like 2 minutes of the launch, like my heart just explodes because you see the support pouring in. And I think two things. I think it's really special that it's of the community by the community, just from the players and the families of the players and the friends of the players and teammates on other club teams and whatnot. I do worry that it puts a burden on the players to promote themselves in order to fund a league that has a lot of merit. I worry that we have a very different funding model for women and non-binary sport than we do for the men's leagues and league. And it's, what kind of precedent does that set? What does that tell our youth about how sports are supported and funded? And do the players in the UDL have to self-promote the way that the players in the WUL and the PUL have to in order to have a really sustainable opportunity? I have no answers about that. I certainly wish. I think don't you have all the answers?
No,
you
not
promised.
remotely.
No. I really think that is warranted of discussion and contemplation. And what can the players in the better funded league be doing to help support their often teammates on other teams to make sure that they're having the same privilege as a professional athlete? And we know we're not talking about a lot of money here. I don't think anything to do with these leagues is about money. I think it has to do with values and a statement and an opportunity and just the hard work and grit of these players. And is it sustainable this way? I don't know. All I know is that I've never seen anything like it. And I have faith that it'll continue. I like the fact that we have the raffle tickets and the sliding scale, because I think the $150 sponsor price tags really, it's just simply out of reach for so much of our community. And that is something that we've had a lot of discussions about. So it's really important to me and to us, I think, as an organizing crew, to keep thinking of ways to keep it affordable and inclusive to all members of our community, which it's like that price tag is just harsh for a lot of budgets. I think everything we do, it seems, takes a lot more work and thinking than you initially think it would, and it all has consequences. So what are we setting ourselves up for in 5 years? I don't know, but I know that it's going well now, and we're helping provide these opportunities for people to play. And the thing I have to remind myself is that $150 is a lot of money, but in a traditional, what's a hockey jersey cost these days? It's not far off. And so
that's true. It's
pretty, like, the value is there, I think, for sponsors as well, and the exclusivity of it. Someone asked me this week, if it's so popular every year, why don't you up the price or like limit the demand or increase the supply? We've had a lot of questions about that too. And to be honest, the reason why we're capped at 1,440 is because we print and make these jerseys locally, and we just don't have capacity to make 3,000 jerseys in 5 to 6 weeks, like some of our overseas community suppliers might. So that's why it's limited, and it's like costs are going up. What do we do in the future to expand that potential fundraising dollar? I don't know, or ceiling, I guess. I'm not sure, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think they're all great questions. And I think it is something that will be interesting to see. It was something that Sasha and I wondered, and obviously getting so close to a sellout, I think, does demonstrate that probably a fair amount of the support for each individual team is coming at least partially from the individual communities around each of the different teams. But it will be interesting to see, because there continue to be conversations about what does it mean for these leagues to be community supported. What does it mean for the league's responsibility then, or presumed responsibility to their community in terms of sharing what info they have to what extent that they can, to be fair, about where their finances are at and where the money is going, and how you continue to use the money in a way that feels like it's going towards both a sports league product and a mission values focused project at the same time, which I know is such a focus for the PUL and the WUL, albeit in slightly different ways for each league. So since you do all of the production for all of these jerseys, you get a bit of a sneak peek as to, or I presume you get a bit of a sneak peek into who ends up on what different teams, maybe a little bit ahead of the rest of us. And there were a number of pretty significant moves for teams in the PUL this year. For you, when you saw the name come through for that roster, what was the name that, like, or names really, because there are a number of them, that really like piqued your interest, that caught your eye?
I think Penny Wu going to the WUL was a big one for me, because I was like, what? Like, she was one of my favorite person to banter with last year when her jerseys kept selling out so quickly. You know what? I have like 400 names bouncing around in my head, and all I know about them right now are what their face looks like on our website and what jersey they're wearing. You know what's funny is that one thing we were really thoughtful about this year was not burning out on the PUL after PSP. So we wanted to get organized early. We wanted to run it a little earlier. We wanted to make sure that by the time the games are going, we're not like PUL over our head kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so we brought Bonesaw on to help us organize the PSP. And that was a lifesaver, because I'm still so jazzed about it. Whereas this time last year, I was literally like had my head under a pillow, just like, when is it over? I need to sleep. All I know is that I'm really excited to see a few games. We're going to hopefully be at a few different ones. I'm going to go to Chicago at some point this season and see the Monarchs. I would love to go see the Rising. Like I think I've only been to 2 games, and so I've only seen 4 or 5 teams play because championship weekend. So, oh no, I guess I went to both championship weekends. Oh, and I'm going to go to DC for championship weekend this year.
Awesome.
But and I'm not going to shout out any individual other than, well, they know who they are. The people who have been texting me and making me laugh all week while this has been going on.
Fair enough. I mean, for me, it's probably, I mean, the few that come to mind, Mex and Robin going to Minnesota.
Yeah.
Both leaving other PUL teams from last season, Monarchs for Robin and Radiance for Mex. The Mascara Cartagena combo in New York.
New York is going to be so exciting this year.
The entire East Division is going to be absolutely bonkers.
What about Philly? Like,
the entire East Division is going to be bonkers. I
am so impressed that they have pulled this together. And obviously, it's like a hotbed of ultimate great players and great organizers. But that's like a game changer for the league, having that level of competition right there, and kind of close for people too, which is huge, right? From a resources standpoint.
Definitely. And obviously you have the one home and home this season between Philly and Portland, which is notable, if only because then you get even more of that fun East Division matchup. Do you have, I got to put you on the spot early while I have you here. Who is your pick to win it all? Do you have a pick to win it all at this point?
You know what? It's the rosters are so deep. Like, I think you'd be pretty dumb to pick. Like,
that's fair.
This is, and I'm picturing like, no, I don't have. I wish that I could go to every single one of those games. And then also, I don't know if you know this about me, but I don't watch a lot because I get so emotionally invested. And especially if my friends are on the team, I like can't handle it. So if I was, no, I'm not going to even do it. But I do want like having Revo players on Gridlock, like it's just that Gridlock team is stacked. Like when you look down, I don't know, they're all going to be, I don't want to comment. They're all amazing.
Fair enough.
Who's going to win? I think you and I should just start our own team and then we have a pretty good chance.
That would be something. It would be fun. I don't know how successful we'd be, but it would be a lot of fun. Anything else, Adriana, before we wrap up?
I think the one thing I just want to get across is this is a really special community initiative that we've just run with the player sponsorship program and the WUL's success of their fundraising program. And I think that I want to make it clear that the money's super important, but what's most important is the support of the community. And we try to get this across, but it probably gets lost in the 1,000 tweets. But to everybody who shared, who commented, who liked it, who is pumping up these athletes to make them feel like the professional athletes that they are, their support is worth every dollar that anybody who's been able to support it financially. And that's huge. You know, like, I think that's a really fundamental point that we've just, Women and Non-Binary Ultimates taken over the airwaves for the last couple months. And this is great. Like, it's only going to go up and get wider and more kids are going to see this. And it's just, this is why we do this. And I think it's really important. So thank you so much to everybody over the past few weeks and month that's helped amplify the message, because it really does matter. And I think it does have an impact.
Yeah. And we're about to wrap up the preseason for the Western Ultimate League game starting this weekend. And then under a month away to the Premier Ultimate League season. Adriana, thank you for joining the show.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for doing what you do. You're amazing.
Thank you. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Sasha and I are talking everything Western Ultimate League as we go deep for a season preview. We'll be back right after this break. Welcome back to Double Overtime presented by VC Ultimate. Thank you again to Adriana from VC Ultimate for talking with me about some of the behind the scenes of how getting 1,440 jerseys produced, set up, designed, how it all goes down. We're going to change gears though. Done talking about the PUL for now, because Sasha, this weekend, already somehow, Western Ultimate League Week 1 Sidewinder Showdown, once again kicking off the Western Ultimate League season with big games. I'm excited. Are you excited?
I'm very excited. Honestly, I was very surprised that it was actually this weekend. It kind of snuck up on me until I was like...
It somehow already made me understand it.
I was like just, scrolling Twitter, and then I think Kayak said something about, this weekend with the side, like, I'm excited for the WUL this weekend. I was like, what? It's starting already? What? And I had to go and look. I'm like, well, yeah, here we are.
Here we are.
We're about to start.
Yeah, and big games, as mentioned earlier, as mentioned in previous shows. We've been talking a fair amount about the Western Ultimate League with the schedule release, with the roster releases. I've also written up for the website for ul2world.com. You can read about my initial take on the schedule, the new schedule with the 2 different conferences, the 8-game schedule with 6 in-conference games for each team and 2 out-of-conference games for each team. You can also read about who's new and who some teams have lost in my overview of the Western Ultimate League rosters. That's also on the website. So if you want more information, go check it out. Sasha, we're starting with the rematches. Seattle playing San Diego, Oregon playing Arizona in Arizona. What a way to start the season with the 3rd place game rematches.
Yeah, it's incredible. They said, "Oh, you like that? We'll just do it again." And you can't stop us, and we're all happy for it. What incredible matchups. Like very first game of the entire season is a rematch of the championship game, Tempest against Super Bloom. And then immediately after that, we've got the 3rd place game, Onyx versus Sidewinders. It's going to be great. Like how, having like some of your toughest opponents as the very first game of the season is pretty nerve-wracking, honestly.
Pretty nerve-wracking. And as I mentioned at the top, Stanford Invite Big College Tournament also happening this weekend. It may impact who ends up being available for Oregon and Seattle in particular, although with traveling rosters, a lot of times, certainly we saw this last season, Western Ultimate League teams didn't bring their full rosters, so it may not have mattered anyway, but Seattle going to be down Abby Hecko, most notably, also Anna Kauchi, who are both on the Washington Element roster, who will be out at Stanford Invite. As for Oregon, they will likely be down Trout Waybart, Cyrus Linkfield, who both play for Oregon Fugue, as well as Acacia Hahn, who plays for Western Washington Chaos. So both of those Northwest Conference teams, I'm going to constantly have to remind myself that it's Northwest Conference and Southwest Conference. Maybe down a few players, but they're both very strong rosters, and Arizona and San Diego are going to have their work cut out for them this weekend.
Real quick, can we just call them the North and South divisions?
I guess, I mean, that's not their names per the league, but I mean, we could. Because it is the Western Ultimate League.
If you have...
So you already have West there, right? You would think.
Yeah. And I'm also thinking mathematically, if you were to say, 2x over 3x, the x's cancel out to be 2 over 3.
Thanks for the algebra lesson, Sasha.
The Wests, the Wests would cancel out.
Kids, don't use this at home. It's not always as easy as that.
Am I wrong, though?
You're not wrong. And they're also the classic names of the regions, Northwest, Southwest. So
facts.
I can see it. I can see it both ways. We'll call it Northwest and Southwest. Western Ultimate League folks, going into 2024, you want to rename your divisions to just make it one syllable less for us. We'd be happy for that as well. But yeah, it definitely tough games off the top. And we actually got, feel like we've talked about and definitely put it in the PUL schedule announcement post on Ul2 World, a strength of schedule analysis breakdown provided by Ryan Kendall. He did a similar thing for the Western Ultimate League. And Sasha, run us through the results, although I don't think they will be that surprising to the folks listening at home.
So very, very top of the strength of schedule list is Utah Wild. They have the hardest strength of schedule.
To be clear, is basically how difficult are the opponents you're playing, in this case discounting Colorado because they didn't play last year, so you can't count them because they didn't play any games. Sorry, Sasha, go ahead.
Exactly. So no, yeah, so Wild has 2 games that don't technically count of their strength of schedule because Colorado did not exist. And so their strength of schedule is determinant on playing Seattle and Portland both twice, and also San Francisco and LA. And so because of that, they have the hardest strength of schedule. Then after that, we have Onyx, which in a similar fashion, we can't count Colorado. And so they play Tempest twice. And I feel like, probably the reason that they aren't higher is because they can't play themselves.
Tempest or, I mean, both really. Yeah.
Both really. Yeah. Speaking of Tempest has the easiest strength of schedule. They are the very bottom of this list.
Because they don't play themselves.
Because they don't have to play themselves. And we can't count Colorado either. So because of that, they have easiest strength of schedule. What is interesting is that the Sidewinders are the 3rd hardest strength of schedule. And I think they technically, I guess you could say because they don't ever play Colorado, correct?
Yeah. Arizona doesn't play Colorado or Utah, but they do have to play in this opening weekend, Seattle and Oregon.
Yeah, so they have Seattle, Oregon opening weekend, and then they also have to play San Diego twice throughout the season. And so I think we could say that the Sidewinders probably have the hardest strength of schedule based on because they don't have to play Colorado.
The Sidewinders have the hardest strength of schedule of teams with full information, because the teams in the Northwest,
there we go,
don't get to count the Colorado games. It's a whole thing. Many props to Ryan for sorting this all out. Yeah, and there's also a grouping of Southwest Conference teams, LA, San Francisco, and San Diego all grouped together just above. Seattle makes sense. They're all kind of playing each other, and so they get more of their strength of schedule because of the double conference games. 2 games against each conference opponent. There's more weight on those teams all playing each other more, along with Arizona. All 3 of those teams playing Arizona twice, getting grouped together in the strength of schedule. So it'll be interesting to play out. And again, with the double conference games, it means that there's far more weight there. So we'll see. And also, there's no information about Colorado in this because they didn't play last year. So very TBD. But yeah, having to play Seattle and Oregon, it does not make your life easy in the short, based on last season's results.
Not at all. And I think it'd be interesting to see at the end of the season if we can make another, strength of schedule based off of this season. Like who had the hardest strength of schedule based on the results of this season, and compare the 2 charts.
Yeah, it would be interesting. And again, this is also on paper based on last season's results. And on paper, the rosters, we've talked about this, Seattle, San Diego having the strongest rosters on paper. We get that matchup right away. How exciting. And we'll see how it ends up playing out for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and reminder to everybody that all of the WUL games will be free to watch on YouTube, on their YouTube channel, correct?
As far as I know.
Yes, on their YouTube channel. Shout out to everybody that was able to contribute to their fundraiser to be able to get the streaming, back for free for all of us, because
and I, for one, am very excited. I hope folks will be able to catch the Falcons home games when they're streamed. I will be on the mic, on commentary. And last year, both of the Falcons home games were tape delayed, and I am excited at the prospect of the games being live streamed. I just think it's better for everyone involved when it's live instead of tape delayed. If you get a chance to listen into those games, watch those games, you should hear my voice as part of those broadcasts. Any other notes, Sasha? Any other updates on the league side before we get to picks? Because we got to do picks. Y'all, we're starting up again. I won picks last season. Sasha's going to try and get redemption this season. Any other notes, Sasha, from the league that we should make sure that we don't miss before? It's going to be all game talk, or at least a lot of game talk going forward from here for the Western Ultimate League.
Yes. Speaking of missing, we almost missed this. We were doing show prep before doing this, and we found that the WUL released the second edition rulebook for this season. Now, when we look at it, there's not anything like major or spicy changes. It's just a lot of clarifications for clock management and things like that. But yeah, there are new rules. Hoping maybe next year we'll see some significant rule changes.
Maybe. What would you want to see? I mean, and here's the thing. The other bit of news from the league, and then we can offer our thoughts and then move on to picks. The Western Ultimate League is putting up a blog, a roundtable chat. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but it's called The West Perspective, and it's a bunch of folks from around the Western Ultimate League community talking about various topics. And the most recent one was about different rule changes that folks offered that they might want to see or could see, and you should go check it out. It's on the Western Ultimate League's website with the West Perspective. It's under their news. It's probably the easiest way to find it from their homepage. It included things around like having free throws off of different calls, a shot clock, including like handball and just like replacing the frisbee with a ball, which like I used to do growing up. We had like this old beat up soccer ball that we toss around. It was basically ultimate with the ball. I don't know how I feel about that. Some people were particularly off the wall, like just taking ultimate completely virtually. I don't know how that would go over. But anyway, check it out, West Perspective. And the again, updated rulebook, although no major changes. Sasha, any thoughts on the West Perspective before we get to picks?
It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend everyone read it. A lot of really funny talk in it. What do you think? What do you think of rules, Jenna?
I am always a fan. This is how I think as a generally D-line player, as someone who likes to think about different ways of doing things. I think it would be interesting to think about different rules around defensive sets or zones. Do you do a double team like the AUDL? Do you say that you can't use zone during certain parts of the game? I think that could be interesting. Or certain limits on you can't have X number of defenders within X distance of the disc, like the double team rule, except you can't have, 3 players or 4 players within 20 yards of the disc. That could be interesting. Those types of things could be interesting to see. How about you?
For me, it's the stall count. I enjoy the 7-second stall count. I think it's great. I just think that it should be observer kept. Like, I think the observer should be the one keeping the stall count and not the players, because I'm pretty sure I went on a tiny rant about this last year. Every person has a different idea of what a second is in their head. Every single person. And so if there is one person doing that, it's going to be a lot more consistent, and we won't see a lot of the 5-second stalls that we did see a lot of last season, because, when your adrenaline's pumping, you tend to just talk a little faster. It's a thing, like it's real. So yeah, I think observer kept stalls would be my number one rule change.
Fair enough. Let us know your thoughts. Read the West perspective and then give us your thoughts at OOT Pod on Twitter. Double Overtime at ultiworld.com is our email. Let us know your thoughts on what rule changes you might implement. And as you'll see from the West perspective, some of them get pretty off the wall. So, Sasha, let's get into some picks. Again, we'll talk more about all the different Western Ultimate League things. We'll recap the games. We'll get there. And again, if you want to know more detailed information, please do go check out the articles that I wrote for the website. I thought they were pretty well put together, and I hope you will enjoy them and find them useful as well. Sasha picks.
Let's do it.
Seattle versus San Diego. I'm putting you on the spot. Game 1. Who is taking it?
This is hard. I think Seattle takes it. I just think that they have the best, on paper roster of the whole league. Like you said, like Abby Hecko isn't going to be there, but when your entire roster is the way that it is, it doesn't really matter that much. So I'm going with Seattle.
Okay. You know what? To make things interesting, just to start, I'm gonna go with San Diego. Although I don't know who is as of right now, Tuesday night, we don't have the active rosters for the games. So I don't know if Penny and Dina will be playing. But if the two of them are, there's enough top end talent, and especially with the core that San Diego brings back, I could definitely see them being able to pull together in the early season. Even though Seattle also brought back like the majority, well over the majority of the roster, I think that San Diego has a chance in the first game to pull a little bit of a surprise. I would say, I guess it is a surprise. I was going to say is a surprise if San Diego would win, but they did not win last year against Seattle. So, all right, should I the next game, Sasha?
Please take it.
Arizona versus Oregon. We saw this matchup in the third place game. Arizona taking it down. Arizona not quite the same team they were last year. Oregon also not the same team. No, Ali Steinfeld. And again, presumably without some of their young talent, who will be up in my vicinity at Stanford Invite. I think I'm going to go with Oregon to win this matchup, to win the rematch of the third place game. I think it might take a little bit of time for Arizona, even though they're at home, to coalesce with a not fully rebuilding roster, but renewed roster, refreshed roster.
I have no rebuttal. I agree completely.
Easy enough.
Yep. Oregon it is.
All right. Then we have San Diego versus Oregon. Sasha, who you got?
This one I have San Diego winning. I don't know what else there is to say.
Fair enough. I will also go San Diego. I took them to beat Seattle. Might as well take them to beat Oregon. So that matches us up on that one. So far, only one difference. So not that interesting so far. All right, is it me next? Just open.
Yeah, you next.
Arizona versus Seattle. Seattle's not going to go winless over this weekend. They're going to beat the Sidewinder. Sorry, Arizona. Last year, y'all got into championship weekend on the back of 2 wins in the opening weekend. I don't see that happening for y'all against the Giants of the Northwest. Although, hey, great bulletin board material, right? Maybe that'll help them pull some upsets on paper, at least.
Please put us on your bulletin board if we are wrong. Even if we're right, please put us on your bulletin board. Yeah, I agree. Seattle. They're too strong.
Fair enough. Okay, so that tally for us has me with San Diego going 2-0, Oregon going 1-1, Seattle going 1-1, and Arizona going 0-2. You have the same, except you have San Diego going 1-1, and you have Seattle going 2-0. So we'll see how it shakes out down south in Arizona at the Sidewinder Showdown. But there is one other game, 5 games on the docket for the Western Ultimate League opening weekend. San Francisco traveling down to LA for, this will be the first intra-conference game, because the other ones at Sidewinder Showdown will be inter-conference, the only 2 out-of-conference games for the 4 teams in Arizona. SFLA had one of, in my opinion, the best games of last season. I got to commentate on it. The final regular season deciding game that sent Arizona to championship weekend. I'm going to be a homer and pick San Francisco to bounce back and do it again, win against LA again. So I'm picking the Falcons to win in LA, get that early road trip victory.
And this is where we differ again, because I am choosing LA.
Okay. Got a couple of differences there. And now, Sasha, we had debated this a little bit of, do we want to do the preseason too early championship weekend and title winning picks? And you're like, we should, because it will be funny when we're wrong. And you are correct. So, shall I go or shall you go?
Okay. I will go first this time.
Great.
We are doing 2 from each division, correct?
Conference, but yes.
Conference division thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So my 4 teams are as follows. Obviously Tempest.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second team from, it's so hard because like I don't know what Alpenglow is gonna do. How are we supposed to know that, you know?
That's why the preseason picks.
I know. I need to look at their schedules real quick. Sorry.
Do you want me to go? Because I can go.
Yes, please go.
Great.
I thought I had decided, but I didn't decide.
I'm going to go early season chalk, preseason chalk, Seattle, Oregon, San Diego, and I'm going to be a Bay Area homer and say that the San Francisco Falcons will make it to championship weekend on their second try. So that has the 2 Northwest teams that made it last time, making it back again. San Diego making it back again, and this time Arizona won't quite get in by the skin of their teeth, and instead it will be San Francisco with a healthier season, with a more consistent season, with a still very talented roster, take the second spot out of the Southwest Conference. Sasha, ball is in your court.
Gonna follow suit. Gonna be a homer.
Do it.
And we're doing
Do it.
We're doing the Wild.
Seattle and Utah to make championship weekend.
This team is hungry, and they were not satisfied with their performance last season, and they are going to do it. They're going to do it.
All right. And out of the Southwest.
Out of the Southwest, we got Super Bloom.
Makes sense.
And here, I'm deciding between... No, I'm not deciding anymore. It's LA.
Okay.
It's Astra.
So we got a couple of differences there on our way too early preseason championship weekend picks. Now shall we go for it? Pick who's going to win it all months in advance.
Go for the whole shit. The whole shebang.
The whole thing. Sasha, do you have a team in mind this time around?
I do.
Okay.
And that team is the San Diego Super Bloom.
Ooh, okay.
They're going to do it.
Okay. I like it. I like the pick. I do. And just to make it interesting, I'm gonna go Seattle. Go back to back. They'll win at home. Championship weekend in Seattle.
Oh, it's at home too. Holy crap!
It's at home. It's
oh god.
Super Bloom's not hosting this time around.
Do I have to change my pick? No, I'm not changing it. Sticking to it. I'm sticking to it. Sticking to it.
Stick to it. I think that Seattle will be tested even more than they were last year throughout the season. I would not be surprised if they lost a game, maybe even two, as my first game pick indicates. But I think in the end, there will be too much consistency, too much depth and talent for this Seattle roster to not take it down in the end. But who knows? We might be right. One of us might be right. We might both be wrong. Who knows? We're going to find out. It's going to be a fun season. I can't believe, like you said earlier, I can't believe the season starts in like 3 days. It's absurd.
Yeah, I'm like in, college season mode still in my head.
Same.
And now all of a sudden we've got more important things to get to.
All of the ultimate is important in my mind. Certainly everything that I get to cover. College women's, PUL, WUL. Tune in. Games for the Western Ultimate League Sidewinder Showdown on YouTube. Follow along. As I mentioned at the top of the show, if you want to see my live tweeting from Stanford Invite out in Stevenson, California, that'll be on Twitter. Y'all, it's just going to keep ramping up from here. WL season's going to be in full swing. Less than a month. The PUL season's going to start. College season's going to continue rolling. Tis the season, y'all. Tis the freaking season. No sub bonus this time around. I got stuff to do. We got stuff to do to prep for this hype weekend. Sasha, any other last words before the Western Ultimate League season officially starts? It's your last chance before one of the season starts. And then we're going until June.
Go Wild.
Go Falcons. Here we go, y'all. Here we go, y'all. It's going to be fun. Join us again. We're going to be, unless something happens, we're going to try and do this weekly. Now, Sasha, right? We got to cover the games. We're going to have to be on some sort of schedule. We'll be back next week for Double Overtime, presented by VC Ultimate. Thank you for listening. I'm so excited, y'all. Take care of yourselves, and see you out there.
Bye.